You're now one signature away from being completely house poor. The bank told you what you qualify for. Nobody told you what you can actually afford. The number on your pre-approval letter, it's not a budget, it's a ceiling, and there's a massive difference between the two. Hey, welcome to the Financial and Economic mini-series, 6 episodes built specifically for first-time buyers in Surrey and Metro Vancouver who want to understand not just how to get a mortgage, but how to live with one. This is episode 1. And by the end of this series, you will know exactly how much home you can comfortably afford, and you will have a real plan to get there. Here's how most first-time buyers approach this. They go to the bank or they talk to a mortgage broker, they answer some questions, they hand their T4s and their NOA, and a week later they get a letter that says you're approved for $950,000. And something in the brain just shifts. Suddenly, they're a realtor looking at detached homes in Cloverdale, maybe a townhouse in Clayton, or maybe if they stretch a little, something in Fleetwood. And I've seen this happen with almost every first time buyer I work with. The number becomes the target, not the limit. So, what is the pre approval actually doing? The bank is running you through two tests. The first is the federal stress test in 2026, which means you need to qualify at your contract rate plus a 2% or 5.25%, whichever is higher. I mean, depending on whatever the interest rate right now is. And this is a safety buffer for the bank, and not a comfort buffer, a minimum safety buffer. And the second is your debt ratio. It's called the GDS, which means gross debt service. It cannot be more than 39% of your gross income. That covers your mortgage, property tax, heat and strata fees if it's applicable to you. And then there's the TDS, which is called the total debt service. It caps about at 44%. Um, that's everything above, plus your car loan, student debt, line of credit. So if you're sitting at 44% TDS and you feel like your finances are healthy, I want you to pause and think about that for a second. You're at the legal maximum. The bank is not your financial advisor, the bank is your lender. Let me give you a real number. A townhouse in Sylvan Heights or Panorama Ridge right now, you're roughly looking at 950,000 to 1 million plus. On a $950,000 purchase with 10% down, so that's like what, $95,000 down? Your insured mortgage is for $885,000. Now, CMHC insurance is roughly about 3.1%, which adds about another $26,000 to your mortgage balance. Now you're carrying about 881,500 over a 25-year amortization. At a 5-year fixed rate of around 4.5%, your monthly mortgage payment is approximately $4,850. The property tax in Surrey, it's around $3.50 per $1,000 assessed. So on a $950,000 home, that's roughly $227 a month. Then there's the strata fee, which can be like from $300 to $500 a month, depending on your complex. Then there's the heat, the insurance, the maintenance fund, add another 300 to 400. Now you're at $5,800 to $6,000 a month before groceries, before car payment, before daycare, before literally anything else. That's like your base expense that has to happen. And the bank approved you for this. This is where the math really gets personal. And here's what I tell every first time buyer who sits down with me is like, start with your take home pay and then work backwards. Not your gross income, your take home, one you get after your taxes. What hits your bank account every month? Subtract everything you already spend on living, and that is how much you can afford on a house. That comfortable target for most families in Surrey, housing costs should be at 30 to 35% of gross income, not 44%, 30 to 35%. And that is the difference between owning a home and being owned by one. So, next week, we're going to go one level deeper because the mortgage payment is actually the easy part to calculate. What nobody likes to talk about are the costs that hit after you get the keys. In episode 2 of this series called The True Cost of Ownership, there are at least three numbers in that episode that will genuinely surprise you. Till then, bye bye.